The rumor spread faster than fire through dry parchment. By morning, every drawing-room in Mayfair whispered the same thing. The Duchess of Ravenscroft is with child. No one questioned it. After all, her husband was the Duke. And a Duke's word was law, even when it was silent. But the Duke hadn't spoken to his wife in 7 years. And he'd never once touched her. The gossip began in the flicker of candlelight at Lady Mortimer's ball. One careless whisper, a hint of pity, and then a gleam of triumph. By dawn it was printed in the scandal sheets under 3 cruel words. The Duchess conceives. Annastasia stared at the paper in trembling hands, her tea untouched. The words blurred, not from shock but from the deep, familiar ache of inevitability. It was only a matter of time before society found a new way to wound her. Only this time the lie cut too close to the truth she could never tell. As there was a baby, and she was keeping a secret, but not the kind they imagined. Her sister's child, her poor fallen sister, slept quietly upstairs, wrapped in innocence the world would never understand. And now that same world wanted blood. "Your Grace," murmured her maid, pale and frightened, Should I summon His Grace?" Anastasia's throat tightened. 7 years since their wedding day. 7 years of polite distance and hollow greetings. 7 years since Boniface had last looked at her as a man might look at his wife. She forced a calm smile. "No, Mary. His Grace need not be troubled with the whispers of idle tongues. But fate has a cruel taste for irony." Before the clock struck noon, the great doors of Ravenscroft Manor swung open, and there he stood. The Duke himself. Tall, severe, cloaked in grey and distance, his presence filled the air like a storm that had finally come home. No letter had warned of his return. No carriage had been seen on the road. It was as though the scandal had summoned him from the shadows. He spoke her name like an accusation. "Anastasia." She rose, clutching the edge of the settee to steady herself. "Your Grace." For a moment silence reigned between them, 7 years of it heavy and cold. He looked around the drawing-room as though searching for proof of betrayal. Then his gaze settled on the discarded scandal sheet. The ink still glistened. He picked it up. "Read it," folded it neatly, and said in a voice so measured it could have frozen fire. "They say you are with child." She did not flinch. "So they do. Are you?" Her heart twisted. Not from guilt, but from the cruelty of the question. She met his gaze, steady and calm, though her pulse thundered in her throat. "I am not," she whispered. His jaw clenched, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. Anger, perhaps, or something more dangerous. "Then I shall deny it." "No." The word escaped her lips before she could stop it. And it hung there between them, sharp as glass. His eyes narrowed. "No. If you deny it," she said quietly, "you feed their hunger. The more we protest, the more they will pry. It will not end." His expression hardened. "So you wish to let them believe it?" "I wish," she said, "to let them tire of it." Her calmness unsettled him. He'd always remembered her as fragile, too kind, too soft, too forgiving. But now there was steel beneath her grace. A quiet defiance he couldn't name. He stepped closer, the space between them shrinking. "When did you learn to play society's games, Anastasia?" "When I realized silence was the only weapon a woman may wield without drawing blood." He should have been angry. Instead he found himself staring at her. Truly staring for the first time in years. There were faint shadows beneath her eyes, but her poise had sharpened into something formidable. This was not the timid bride he'd left behind. "You've changed," he murmured. "I had to." Something flickered in him. Regret. Recognition. He turned away before it could root. "You will come to London," he said finally. "We will attend the next ball together. Let them see us. Let them see that their whispers are beneath our notice." "Attend together?" "Yes. I'll not have my name sullied by gossip." "Why?" She heard it instantly. He wasn't protecting his name. He was protecting her. And though he would never say it, the thought terrified them both. 3 nights later, the Duke and Duchess of Ravenscroft entered the grand ballroom of Ashbourne Hall. Every conversation stopped. Every fan froze mid-wave. Every pair of eyes turned toward them. The couple long thought estranged, now arm in arm beneath the chandeliers. Anastasia's heart beat painfully as whispers rippled around her. The orchestra faltered. Even Lady Mortimer, queen of scandal, blinked in disbelief. Boniface bent slightly, his voice low near her ear. "Smile, Anastasia. They're watching." She did. But her hands trembled beneath her silk gloves. He guided her into the dance, his touch firm and unfamiliar. For years she'd imagined what it might feel like to be held by him. She never thought it would hurt so much. "Do you believe them?" she asked softly. He looked down at her. "Believe what?" "That I carry your child." A muscle in his jaw tightened. "I know you do not." "Then why protect me?" His gaze darkened. "Because it is my duty." He smiled, small, sad, resigned. "Of course." But deep inside something fractured. They danced through the storm of eyes and whispers, moving like ghosts through the glittering room. To everyone watching they looked perfect, the aloof Duke and the radiant Duchess reconciled at last. But between them lay years of silence, secrets, and a love neither dared to name. When the music ended, Boniface leaned close enough for only her to hear. "After tonight," he murmured, "no one will question you again. I'll make sure of it." She drew back, startled by the promise in his voice. "What do you mean?" He didn't answer. But when the next waltz began, he did something no one in London society would ever forget. Before the entire room, before every watching eye and whispering tongue, the Duke of Ravenscroft kissed his wife. Not a polite brush of lips, but a claim. A declaration. A warning. The scandal that had threatened to destroy her was suddenly transformed into the most intoxicating spectacle of the season. Every woman gasped. Every man stared. And Lady Mortimer's fan slipped from her fingers. Anastasia froze, her world collapsing and blooming all at once. For 7 years she had been invisible. Now in a single heartbeat he had made her unforgettable. When he pulled away, his breath trembled against her ear. "Let them talk, Anastasia," he whispered. "They'll never know what we found in the wreckage." And as the ballroom erupted into applause, neither of them could tell whose heart broke first, or who was finally beginning to feel alive again. The baby's cry shattered the night. Anastasia jolted awake, heart pounding, sweat cold on her neck. For a moment she didn't know where she was, until her eyes found the soft glow of the nursery candle flickering against the crib. The child whimpered again, small fists trembling in the moonlight. She crossed the room barefoot, her silk nightgown brushing against the floorboards. Outside, thunder rolled like distant anger. Or perhaps it was just her guilt-made sound. "Shoo, my love," she whispered, lifting the baby into her arms. "I've got you." The infant quieted, cheek pressed to her shoulder. The warmth of that tiny heartbeat steadied her, and yet, fear slid through her veins like ice. If Boniface had seen the child, truly seen, would he still have kissed her before all of London? A knock echoed from below. Hard. Urgent. Her maid's voice came through the door, breathless. "Your Grace. Lord Pembroke's man just delivered a letter, marked, immediate." Anastasia froze. Nothing good ever came from the Pembrokes. She placed the baby back in the crib and crossed to her writing desk, candlelight trembling as she broke the seal. The paper smelled faintly of lilac and malice. "My dearest Duchess, London is still abuzz. Some say the Duke's kiss has restored your virtue. Others whisper it was your last desperate act to hide the truth. I hear a child cries in Ravenscroft Manor. How curious, that it should sound so new. With affection as ever, Lady Agatha Pembroke." Anastasia's hands shook. The words slithered through her chest, coiling around her ribs. He wanted to burn the letter. Tear it to ash. But she knew better. Agatha's poison always came wrapped in silk. By the time the morning light crept over the hills, the letter lay hidden in her desk drawer, but the dread remained. Because Agatha never wrote without purpose. By afternoon, Boniface summoned her. He stood by the window of his study, gloved hands clasped behind his back. The light fell harshly across his features, every angle carved from restraint. "You've received a letter," he said without turning. So he already knew. Of course he did. "From Lady Pembroke," she admitted. "And you opened it?" "Yes." He finally turned, eyes cold as steel. "Then you understand what she implies." "I understand she thrives on ruin. She also holds influence. Her husband sits on half the charity boards in London. If she moves against us, society will follow." Anastasia's chin lifted. "Then let her. We have survived worse." He studied her. This woman who once trembled beneath his silence now stood unshaken in its shadow. "You're not frightened?" he asked. "I am," she said softly. "But fear is useless unless it teaches you how to stand." The faintest flicker crossed his eyes, admiration quickly buried. "Then we stand together," he said. For a heartbeat she believed him. But later that evening she overheard him in the corridor speaking low to his steward. "Send word to London. We'll attend the Pembroke supper this Saturday. The Duchess will accompany me." Her heart clenched. So this was how he meant to fight, with appearances. As if appearances had ever saved her. 3 nights later the Duke's carriage rolled into the heart of London. Gaslight shimmered across wet cobblestones, and thunder still whispered somewhere beyond the rooftops. Anastasia sat rigid, gloved hands resting in her lap. Boniface watched her from across the dim cabin, his expression unreadable. "You don't have to look so terrified," he murmured. "I'm not terrified," she said. "I'm calculating." His lips curved, almost a smile. "Then calculate this. If Agatha presses the rumor, she'll force my hand. I'll have to claim the child as mine." Her breath hitched. "You can't." "I can. And I will if it spares you." "Spare me?" She gave a hollow laugh. "You think a public lie will spare me? Or will it cage me even tighter?" His voice hardened. "It will protect you." "No, Boniface. It will protect you." He turned away, but not before she saw the flicker of pain, the kind only truth could cause. Lady Agatha's home gleamed with cruelty disguised as elegance. Every chandelier dripped with light, every guest sparkled with scandal. When the Duke and Duchess entered, conversation died. "Ah," purred Agatha, descending the staircase in sapphire silk. "Ravenscroft graces us at last." Her smile was too sweet to be kind. And the Duchess, radiant as always. "I dare say motherhood suits you." Anastasia held her ground. "As compassion suits you, Lady Pembroke. Though I see it grows rare these days." Gasps fluttered around them. Boniface's gaze sharpened, but Agatha only laughed. "Touché, my dear. I do love a woman with a little spirit. Tell me, when does your confinement begin?" Every muscle in Anastasia's body screamed to leave, but she smiled, perfectly poised. "Perhaps sooner than you think." The room tittered. Agatha blinked, momentarily thrown off balance. Boniface stepped forward then, taking Anastasia's arm with subtle possession. "You'll forgive my wife, Lady Pembroke," he said smoothly. "She's weary from travel. But I assure you she's quite content." Agatha's eyes gleamed. "Of course she is. Every woman dreams of such a husband." The implication was clear. The venom sweet. Boniface bowed slightly. "And yet not every husband dreams of such a wife." That silenced the room. Agatha's smile faltered. The Duke's words lingered, sharp enough to draw blood. Anastasia's pulse thundered as he led her away, through the crowd of curious eyes. For the first time she felt him defend her not with obligation, but with something far more dangerous. Modi. Later that night, back in the carriage, the silence between them was thick enough to choke on. "You shouldn't have said that," she whispered. He stared out the window. "Said what?" "That you don't dream of such a wife. They'll twist it." "Let them," he said. "They twist everything anyway." The rain began again, drumming against the glass. She watched him, this man she once thought made of stone. But now there were cracks and through them light. "Why did you come back, Boniface?" she asked softly. He hesitated. "Because I heard you were in trouble." "That's not a reason. That's an excuse." He turned to her, eyes dark. "Then tell me the reason I should have come." He swallowed. "Because you missed me." The words hung between them like lightning. He said nothing. But his silence spoke louder than any vow. When the carriage stopped at Ravenscroft, he stepped out first, offering his hand. She hesitated before taking it. His glove was cold, but his grip was not. Inside, the fire was still burning. He went straight to the nursery. The baby slept, soft breaths against the hush. She touched the child's tiny fingers and whispered, "Hush now. The world is cruel, but love will find us." Behind her, a floorboard creaked. Boniface stood in the doorway, candle in hand. His expression softened at the sight of her. The woman he'd married, holding a child that wasn't hers, yet loved more fiercely than life itself. "She looks like you," he murmured. Anastasia turned, startled. "She?" He stepped closer, eyes on the baby. "Your sister's child, isn't she?" The world stilled. "How did you?" "Because I know you, Anastasia. And I know you'd rather bear the weight of scandal than abandon a soul in need." Her throat tightened. "Then you understand why I couldn't tell you." He nodded slowly. "I do now." Their eyes met, the distance of 7 years narrowing to a single breath. "She's not mine," she whispered. "But she is my heart." "I know." His voice broke, quiet as confession. "And for what it's worth, I never deserved either of you." The candle trembled in his hand. And for the first time in 7 years, Boniface Ravenscroft looked at his wife not with duty, but with awe. "Do you deny it, Anastasia?" His voice thundered through the marble hall, sharp as a blade. "Do you deny that you carry a child that isn't mine?" Her fingers trembled around the edge of her cloak. The silence in the drawing room pressed in on her like a hand at her throat. Servants froze in the corridors, afraid to breathe. The fire crackled. And between them, 7 years of distance, of untouched beds, of words unsaid. "I will not dignify gossip," she whispered, though her throat burned with the weight of every accusation. Boniface took a step forward, his jaw clenched, his eyes glinting with a rage that wasn't just about the rumor. It was about everything. "The city talks, Anastasia. They whisper in parlors and at supper tables that the Duke's barren wife has finally been bedded. And I, your husband, am made a fool. You make yourself a fool by giving them your attention." Her tone was quiet, almost pleading. But his anger was too far gone. "I have tolerated your silence, your distance, your stubborn pride." His hands curled into fists. "But this I cannot bear. You will tell me whose child you claim to protect." Her breath hitched. Her secret clawed at her chest, desperate to be free, but the truth was a fragile thing. If spoken too soon, it could shatter everything she was trying to save. "It is not what you think." Boniface gave a hollow laugh. "Then enlighten me, my lady. What am I to think when you vanish for hours, return with that bundle, and refuse to let anyone near it? You clutch it like salvation, yet you look at me as though I'm your damnation." "Because you wouldn't understand," she said softly. His voice dropped. "Try me." Anastasia's gaze fell to the bundle in her arms. The sleeping infant, small and innocent, wrapped in her sister's shawl. Her sister, who had died 2 nights ago in a freezing alley, branded by society's scorn. The babe had no name, no claim, and no future unless Anastasia gave it one. "Her name is Clara," Anastasia whispered, her tears hot. She is my sister's child. The silence that followed was heavier than any scream. Boniface's breath stilled. Your sister's. She was cast out, disgraced. She had nowhere to go. When she died, the child was left to starve. I couldn't, her voice broke. I couldn't let that happen. So I brought her home. I said nothing because I knew what they would say. That I had sinned. That you, she looked up at him, eyes glistening, that you were the sinner beside me. Boniface stared at her, the fury draining from his face, replaced by something else. Shock, grief, and an emotion too raw to name. Good God, he murmured, stepping closer. Why didn't you tell me? Because you stopped listening long ago. That struck him like a slap. For a moment the Duke of Ashbourne, the man the ton feared, was just a man gutted by his wife's quiet truth. I would have helped you, he said hoarsely. You would have protected your name. Not her. He froze. She was right, and the truth hurt more than any insult. Anastasia turned away, clutching Clara closer. Let them think what they wish. They've always needed something to talk about. I'll bear the whispers if it means she lives. Boniface looked at her, at the woman he had once loved so fiercely he'd built his world around her. The same woman he'd locked away behind duty and distance. And for the first time in years he saw her, not as his wife, not as the Duchess, but as a woman who had done something extraordinary. She'll never survive their cruelty, he said quietly. Neither will you. I already have. He stepped forward again, his voice softer now, uncertain. If the world believes she is mine, then let them. I will not deny her. Or you. Anastasia's breath caught. You would claim her? His eyes met hers, tired, regretful, and painfully sincere. I would claim you both. She searched his face, half expecting the cold indifference she'd come to know. Instead she saw the man she'd once married. The one who had made her laugh under moonlight, who'd whispered promises before the weight of title and tragedy drowned them both. Why now? She asked. Because I see you again, he said. And I remember why I fell in love with you. Her lips trembled. Don't say that unless you mean it. I do, he whispered. I never stopped. I just forgot how to show it. Before she could answer, the heavy knock of a visitor broke the moment. The butler entered, bowing slightly. Your Grace, the Marquis of Wetherby is here. He insists on speaking with you both. Anastasia stiffened. Boniface's eyes darkened. Wetherby, the man who had spread the first rumor. Boniface straightened. Show him in. When the Marquis entered, smirking with polished arrogance, Anastasia's blood ran cold. Your Grace, Wetherby drawled, his eyes sliding to her. Lady Anastasia. I do hope I'm not intruding. It seems the entire county cannot stop talking about your happy news. Boniface's voice was ice. You should choose your next words carefully, Wetherby. Oh, come now. We're all friends. I merely thought to offer congratulations. His smirk widened. Unless, of course, there's more to the story. A child conceived after 7 years of silence? Remarkable indeed. Anastasia felt the shame rise again, hot and choking. Boniface's hand tightened at his side, but his expression remained calm, a predator waiting to strike. You speak boldly for a man whose debts outweigh his honor, Boniface said. Perhaps that's why you sell gossip. You've nothing else left to trade. Wetherby's smile faltered. I only speak what society whispers. Then allow me to whisper back, Boniface said smoothly, stepping closer. Speak her name again and I will see to it that no door in London opens for you. No gaming table. No inheritance. No mercy. Wetherby swallowed. You wouldn't. I would, Boniface said, voice low. And I will. For a long moment silence filled the hall again. Then Wetherby, pale and humiliated, turned on his heel and fled. When the door closed, Anastasia let out a trembling breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Boniface turned to her. You didn't have to do that, she murmured. Yes, he said softly. I did. For once I'll let the world talk, and this time they'll talk about how fiercely I defended my wife. Her eyes met his, searching for deception, and found none. Outside, the bells of Ashbourne struck midnight. Inside, the fire burned low, casting their shadows long across the floor. For the first time in 7 years, Boniface reached for her hand, and she didn't pull away. Let them talk, Anastasia, he said quietly. They'll never know what we found in the wreckage. And for a fleeting, fragile moment, the silence between them didn't feel empty. It felt like home. Get her out of my house. The Duchess Dowager's voice cracked through the air like a whip, her gloved hand trembling as she pointed at the infant. That child is a curse, an abomination brought here to shame us all. Anastasia flinched, clutching Clara tighter against her chest. The babe stirred, whimpering softly, unaware that her very existence was tearing the house apart. Mother, enough, Boniface said sharply, his tone commanding, but his mother's fury only deepened. Enough, she spat, her eyes glinting with scorn. You think this is enough, Boniface? You think I'll stand by while your wife parades another woman's bastard as an Ashbourne heir? Have you lost your senses? Boniface's jaw tightened. I said enough. She has made a fool of you. The dowager's voice shook with indignation. 7 years of silence between you, and suddenly she brings home a child and claims it as her own? Do you not see what she's done? She's dragged your name through filth. Anastasia's breath trembled. She wanted to speak, to defend the child, to defend herself, but words felt useless against the torrent of hatred. She saved an innocent life, Boniface said, his voice low but deadly. And that child will not leave this house. The dowager turned on him aghast. You cannot mean to keep her. Society will destroy you both. Then let them try, he said. Anastasia stared at him. This man she'd once feared had turned his wrath elsewhere, and for her. For Clara. It didn't feel real. The dowager's lips curled. You'll regret this. You'll watch everything your father built crumble under whispers and laughter. Then let it crumble, Boniface replied coldly. Because I will not let my wife face it alone. The dowager recoiled as though struck. Her voice fell to a hiss. She's changed you. Turned you into something unrecognizable. No, mother, he said softly. She's made me remember who I was. The dowager glared at Anastasia one last time before sweeping from the room, her heels clattering across the marble like thunder. The heavy doors slammed behind her and silence fell. Anastasia sank onto the nearest chair, her strength draining away. Clara whimpered again and she gently rocked her, whispering soothing nonsense through trembling lips. Boniface stood watching her, his hands at his sides, his heart pounding with a strange mix of anger and awe. You shouldn't have to fight them, he murmured. Not her, not society, not anyone. I've fought worse battles in silence, Anastasia said quietly. This time at least I have a reason worth bleeding for. Her voice broke on the last word. Boniface knelt before her, his hand hovering near hers. You should never have faced any of it alone. You weren't there, she whispered. I know. His voice was thick with regret. And every day of those 7 years, I knew I was becoming the very thing I swore I'd never be, like my father. Distant. Cold. Afraid of my own heart. Anastasia's eyes lifted to meet his. Then why come back now? He looked at her, the firelight flickering across his face. Because when I heard what they said about you, something in me broke. I couldn't stand the thought of you defending yourself alone again. For a moment neither spoke. Only the crackle of the fire filled the silence. I meant what I said, he continued. If the world believes Clara is mine, then so be it. I will not deny her. Or you. Anastasia looked down at the child, then back at him. Do you even know what that means, Boniface? Once you claim her, there's no turning back. She becomes part of your legacy, of the Ashbourne line. He nodded. Then I suppose it's time the Ashbourne line stood for something worth remembering. Anastasia felt tears sting her eyes. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. But she had learned the hard way that promises could be as fragile as glass. And yet, when he reached out, she let him take her hand. "Let me help you," he said quietly. Before she could reply, the door opened again. This time it was the butler, pale and anxious. "Your Grace, the bishop is here. He says it concerns the matter of Lady Anastasia's condition." Anastasia's stomach twisted. The bishop. Boniface's eyes narrowed. "Send him in." Moments later, the bishop entered, his robes sweeping across the floor. He bowed stiffly, his expression grave. "Your Grace, my lady, forgive my intrusion, but I come bearing an urgent request from the Council of Clergy." "Speak," Boniface said. "There are concerns," the bishop began delicately, "about the nature of your wife's situation. Rumors of impropriety. Of a child conceived outside the sanctity of your union." He glanced briefly at Anastasia, then back to Boniface. "The Church cannot allow such scandal to fester. They request an inquiry to ensure the honor of your household remains untarnished." Anastasia's blood ran cold. "An inquiry?" The bishop nodded. "They will expect proof, my lady. Proof that this child is truly your husband's." The silence that followed was suffocating. Boniface rose slowly, his presence filling the room. "Tell the council that the Duke of Ashbourne does not answer to gossip or suspicion. And if they wish to question my wife's honor, they may do so over my dead body. Your Grace." "Enough." His voice was ice. "This conversation is over." The bishop hesitated, then bowed again and retreated, leaving the tension thick enough to choke on. Anastasia turned away, her breath trembling. "They won't stop, Boniface. Not until they destroy me." He moved closer, his voice low. "Then let them try. I'll meet them all in hell if I must." She looked at him then, truly looked. And for the first time in years, she didn't see the man who'd abandoned her bed or ignored her pain. She saw the man she had once loved fiercely, the man who had sworn to protect her when she was 19 and trembling at the altar. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. "Because I'm tired of watching you stand alone," he said. "And because I cannot bear the thought of losing you again." Her breath caught, tears glistening in her lashes. "You never had me, Boniface." "Not really." "Then give me the chance to try," he said, voice barely above a whisper. A storm raged outside, the wind howling against the windows like some ancient beast. Inside, the silence felt equally dangerous. Anastasia rose, cradling Clara close. "The inquiry will come whether you allow it or not. They'll dig until they find something to ruin us. Then we'll give them a story they can't destroy," Boniface said firmly. Her brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" He met her gaze, steady and unflinching. "We make the lie real." She froze. "Boniface." He took her hand gently. "We've lived apart for 7 years. Let them believe that changed. Let them see us together. Let them see love where they expect shame." Anastasia's heart pounded. "You would do that for me?" "For us," he said softly. "For the child. For the truth they'll never understand." The clock chimed the hour. The storm outside roared louder, but in that moment, the walls of Ashbourne House held something new, something fragile but fierce. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was the beginning of it. Lies. Lady Agatha's shriek cut through the air like shattered glass. The Duchess hides behind charity and pity, but she's nothing more than a fallen woman. The ballroom fell silent. 100 eyes turned toward Anastasia. The chandeliers flickered as though recoiling from the venom in Agatha's voice. Anastasia stood frozen at the top of the marble steps, her gloved hand trembling around her glass. The whispers rippled outward like poison in water. "Lady Agatha," Boniface's voice rang out, deep and controlled but carrying a dangerous edge. You forget yourself. Agatha's painted lips curled. Do I? Or have we all forgotten the truth? That your wife disappeared for months, then returned with a child she claims as her own. Her eyes gleamed with malice. And now, my dear Duke, we know the man responsible. I have the letter to prove it. Gasps erupted. Anastasia's heart stopped. Letter? Boniface demanded, striding forward. Show it. Agatha reached into her reticule, pulling out a folded sheet. Written by the man himself, your wife's supposed confidant. He claims the child as his. Boniface snatched the paper from her, his eyes scanning it. Anastasia watched the color drain from his face. He looked up, his expression unreadable. This is forged. Agatha laughed lightly, cruelly. Oh, how convenient. Enough, Anastasia said suddenly. Her voice, though soft, cut through the noise. If you want to know the truth, Lady Agatha, then let us have it out here before everyone. The crowd held its breath. Agatha's brows lifted, delight flickering in her eyes. By all means, my dear Duchess. Do enlighten us. Who fathered the child? Anastasia stepped forward, her pulse thundering in her ears. No one. Agatha's smirk faltered. Do not toy with me. She is my sister's child, Anastasia said, voice shaking but steady. Born in secret after my sister's ruin. I took her when no one else would. Murmurs broke out. But sympathy. Disbelief. Agatha laughed again, brittle and sharp. And you expect us to believe that fairy tale? That a duchess would risk her title for another's shame? I expect nothing from you, Anastasia said. But I will not allow you to stain an innocent child for the sake of your entertainment. The words hung heavy. Boniface looked at her. Truly looked, and saw her as if for the first time. The truth of her courage. The quiet strength she'd carried while he was blind to it. Agatha turned toward him, desperation creeping into her tone. You can't possibly stand by this lie. Think of your name, your legacy. My name? Boniface said quietly, dangerously. My name has no worth if I must destroy her to keep it. The crowd erupted again, scandal and all blending like fire and perfume. Agatha's mask cracked, her composure slipping. You fool, she hissed. You'll burn for this. Then I'll burn beside her, he said. Agatha paled. She backed away, fury trembling through her. You'll regret this. Both of you. Boniface turned to Anastasia. Come. He took her hand, not for appearances, not for performance, but with the reverence of a man who'd finally woken from a long, cold sleep. Together they walked out, past the stunned nobles, past the whispering guests, into the rain-soaked night. Outside the carriage waited. Boniface helped her inside, neither speaking until the wheels began to turn. She looked out the window, her reflection faint in the glass. It's over now, isn't it? No, he said quietly. It's only beginning. He turned to him. They'll destroy you. They already tried, he said. And they failed. Silence stretched between them, thick with the storm and unspoken things. Finally, he said, Why didn't you tell me the truth sooner? Anastasia's gaze fell to her gloved hands. Would you have believed me? He hesitated. No, he admitted. She nodded, her throat tightening. That's why. The carriage jolted as thunder cracked across the sky. Boniface leaned forward, his eyes haunted. You saved a life, Anastasia. And I punished you for it without even knowing. Her voice trembled. You didn't need to know to believe in me. You just needed to see me. He exhaled shakily, his head dropping into his hands. I see you now. She turned away, her chest aching with the weight of everything unsaid. It's too late for that. No, he said, lifting his head. It isn't. The carriage stopped suddenly. Boniface opened the door. Come with me. Where? Somewhere we can be honest. Rain poured in sheets as they stepped into the night. They walked through a narrow alley until they reached a small church, its candles flickering faintly inside. The scent of wet stone and candle wax filled the air. Boniface turned to her, soaked to the bone. You said you saved your sister's child. Tell me, what happened? Anastasia swallowed hard. My sister, Clarissa, was cast out after a scandal. No one would take her in. She died giving birth and her voice broke. I couldn't let the child suffer for her mother's choices. So I brought Clara here. I thought I could hide her, raise her quietly. I thought I could protect her. Boniface's face softened. You tried to protect her and me from shame. I tried to protect her from the world, Anastasia whispered. You were never meant to be part of this. Not after everything. He stepped closer, his eyes dark with guilt and longing. Everything I did was a mistake. Every day without you was punishment enough. She looked up at him, her breath catching. Then why now? Why fight for me now when it's too late? Because it isn't too late, he said, his voice raw. Because I still love you, damn it, and I'm done pretending I don't. The words hit her like thunder. Her lips parted, her heart pounding. Boniface. He reached for her hand, then hesitated as if afraid she'd vanish. You don't have to forgive me. But I will spend every day proving that I deserve to stand beside you again. Rain drummed against the windows. The candles wavered as though uncertain whether to burn brighter or die out. Anastasia's eyes filled with tears. You don't even know how to love me anymore. Then teach me, he whispered. Something inside her broke open. Grief, relief, love she'd buried for years. Before she could speak, lightning flashed through the church window and the door burst open. A drenched footman stumbled in, panting. Your Grace, the constables. Lady Agatha has filed charges of moral corruption against Her Grace. They've come to arrest her. Anastasia froze, her blood turning to ice. Boniface's expression hardened. On whose authority? The council, sir. Boniface stepped forward, fury blazing in his eyes. Over my dead body. But Anastasia's voice stopped him. No, she said softly. Let them come. Anastasia. She turned to him, her face calm, resolute. If I run now, they'll never believe the truth. Let them see me. Let them hear me. I've hidden long enough. Boniface stared at her, awe mingling with terror. You don't have to be the one they crucify. She smiled sadly. Perhaps I was born to be. The door slammed again as soldiers entered, their boots echoing on stone. Anastasia squared her shoulders, lifting her chin as they approached. Boniface reached for her hand. I'll find you, he swore. Her lips trembled into the faintest smile. You always do. Then they dragged her away into the rain, leaving him in the church, the echo of her courage still ringing in the silence she left behind. Don't touch her. Boniface's voice thundered across the drawing room as Lord Redwine's hand froze midair. The startled guests fell silent. Even the chandeliers seemed to tremble at the sound. Anastasia stood in the center, her eyes wide, one hand clutching the edge of her shawl as Redwine's smirk faltered. Your Grace, Redwine began, voice shaking, I was only leaving, Boniface snapped, striding forward with barely contained fury. His fists were clenched, his jaw locked. Yow. Redwine's confidence shattered. With a muttered excuse and the faint sound of snickering from a few onlookers, he slunk out, avoiding the Duke's burning stare. The room was suffocating with the scent of scandal and candle wax. Boniface didn't look at the faces turned toward them. He only saw her. Anastasia, his wife, his undoing, the woman he had failed to protect again. The moment the door shut behind Redwine, Boniface turned sharply, his voice cutting through the murmurs. Everyone out. No one dared argue. Within moments the room emptied, whispers following them down the corridor like ghosts. Anastasia's lips parted. Boniface, you didn't have to. He stepped closer. Didn't have to? He had his hand on you, Anna. In front of everyone. You think I would stand by? Her chin lifted in quiet defiance. He was mocking me. Mocking us. What would you have had me do, run? I would have had you call for me, he said through gritted teeth. You don't face wolves alone. I've been alone for 7 years, she said, and the words hit him harder than any blow could. Silence stretched between them, heavy, alive. The tension crackled like fire. He took another step, the heat of his anger dissolving into something deeper, rawer. Not anymore. Her throat tightened. Don't promise that, Boniface. You've made promises before. He stared at her for a long time, then exhaled shakily. Then let me prove one true. He turned, striding toward the window, his reflection fractured by the glass. Outside, the winter night pressed close around the manor, whispering secrets to the snow. Anastasia's voice trembled when she spoke again. You shouldn't have come back for me. He turned, his expression unreadable. And yet I did. He swallowed. Why? For the same reason I'm still standing here, he said. Because despite everything you're still mine. Her eyes glistened, her composure fracturing. Yours. You left me to rot in this house of whispers, Boniface. You let the world think I was barren, cold, unworthy of your touch. You. He crossed the space between them in a heartbeat, his hand catching her wrist. Because I thought it would save you, he said, his voice breaking. Because if they knew what I'd done, what I'd failed to do, you would have been destroyed right alongside me. She searched his face, her breath shallow. Failed to do. His grip loosened. I couldn't protect you from them. From my family. From the debt, the ruin, the court. I couldn't even protect myself. Then why protect me now? She whispered. He hesitated, then reached out, his hand brushing the tears she didn't know had fallen. Because now, Anna, I finally understand what I was saving you for. Her breath caught as he leaned closer. The firelight flickered between them, painting his face in shades of gold and sorrow. You can't undo the years, she murmured. No, he said softly. But I can start by facing them. He stepped back, struggling to rein in his emotions. Tomorrow the ton will hear the truth. I'll speak at the house. I'll tell them the child isn't ours by blood. Anastasia froze. You'll tell them? Yes, he said, meeting her gaze. The lies end now. She shook her head. They'll destroy you. They'll strip you of everything. I have nothing left to lose, he said, and for the first time she saw the exhaustion in him, not of the body but of the soul. Her voice cracked. Boniface, please. I can bear their whispers. I cannot bear to watch you fall. He smiled faintly, bitterly. Then stand with me when I do. The words silenced her. He turned away, his hand trembling as he reached for the decanter on the table. He poured himself a glass, the sound of liquid against crystal too loud in the quiet room. Anastasia watched him, torn between fury and love. You think redemption is found in confession. But this isn't the church, Boniface. It's society. They crucify their saints and reward their liars. He downed the drink, his throat tight. Then let them crucify me. Her voice softened. And what of me? Of the child? What happens to us? He met her eyes again. You'll live free. Free of what? She demanded. Your name? Your protection? Your love? He faltered at the last word. Don't make me choose between your safety and my guilt. She took a trembling step forward. You don't get to decide for me anymore. Their eyes locked, pain meeting defiance. Then slowly her hand found his chest. If we burn, she whispered, we burn together. He caught her hand, his pulse hammering beneath her touch. Anna. Say it, she breathed. Say you don't love me and I'll walk away. Say it and I'll never speak your name again. He couldn't. Instead he pulled her into his arms, his lips finding hers with a hunger buried too long. The kiss was not tender. It was desperate, raw, filled with the ache of years wasted and words unspoken. When they broke apart, her tears glistened like diamonds. Then don't you dare face them alone, she whispered. He cupped her face, his voice rough. If this is our ruin, Annastasia, let it be glorious. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance. A winter storm rising over Betterford Manor. By morning the world would know the truth. And nothing would ever be the same. The Duke Boniface of Betterford was bleeding. Not from a duel, but from the sharp slice of his father's cane that cracked against the edge of his desk. The old Duke stood trembling with fury, his white hair gleaming like frost in the grey morning light. You will not make a spectacle of this family again, he spat. Do you hear me, boy? You'll silence your wife and bury that bastard child before the house convenes. Boniface didn't flinch. That child is innocent. Innocence dies the moment scandal breathes its name, the old man hissed. Do you think your mother's heart survived the whispers after your affair? You've brought enough shame to our bloodline. Boniface's jaw clenched. This isn't about me anymore. It's about her. The cane slammed down again. That woman was a mistake the day you chose her. Rage surged through him. Careful, Boniface said, voice low. That woman is my wife. His father sneered. A barren duchess who parades a stolen babe to soften society's pity? You've chained yourself to a corpse of reputation. Boniface's fist hit the desk with a thud that shook the inkpot. Enough. Silence. The word hung between them like smoke. The elder Duke's voice softened, cold as winter steel. You think love can fix this, my son? But love doesn't survive scandal. It drowns in it. Boniface's voice dropped to a whisper. Then let it drown with me. He turned on his heel and left before his father could reply, the echo of his boots a death march through the marble hall. Outside, the morning sky hung heavy with clouds and the carriage waited, its door open like the mouth of fate. Annastasia stood by the nursery window when he entered, the child cooing softly in her arms. The warmth of the fire barely touched her pale face. She didn't turn to greet him. You went to your father, she said quietly. He paused. You knew I would. I also know what he'd have said. Boniface exhaled, the ache in his chest deepening. He's calling for silence. And you'll obey? He walked closer, the scent of lavender and smoke wrapping around him. Not this time. Her eyes lifted to his, blue and guarded. Then you've chosen war. Perhaps it's time, he said. I've spent years hiding behind titles and duty. But when I saw Redwine touch you, Anna, he broke off, his hands curling at his sides. I knew I'd rather be ruined beside you than untouched by the truth. Tears shimmered in her eyes, but she blinked them away. Then we stand together. He reached for the baby, lifting her gently from Anastasia's arms. What's her name today? He asked, a faint smile tugging his lips. Rose, she whispered. Because she bloomed from sorrow. He looked down at the infant's tiny face and something in him cracked open. She deserves a name without lies. She deserves peace, Anastasia said softly. He nodded. And she'll have it. Even if I have to face the house with nothing but my honor left. Anastasia touched his sleeve. You'll lose your seat. Your title. Everything. I lost everything the moment I left you, he said simply. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of grief, of love, of understanding. Then from outside came the distant sound of hooves. Fast. Urgent. Boniface handed her the child. Stay here. He crossed the hall as a footman burst through the door, pale and breathless. Your Grace. Riders from the city. They say Lord Redwine has spoken before the house. Boniface froze. What did he say? The footman swallowed hard. He claims you confessed to fathering the child, and paying to hide the mother. Anastasia gasped behind him. Boniface's voice turned to ice. He lies. Yes, Your Grace, but the house believes him. They've summoned you to appear before noon. Anastasia clutched the banister. Boniface, he's turning your defense into your downfall. He looked at her, his jaw set. Then I'll face him before them all. She stepped down, her hand trembling as it touched his chest. Let me come. He shook his head. No. You'll stay here where it's safe. Safe, she whispered bitterly. There's no safety in silence. Their eyes locked, the weight of years between them. Then slowly he nodded. Then stand beside me. Let them see the truth in your eyes. She drew herself up, regal even in her trembling. Then we go together. The House of Lords was a storm of voices when they entered. Gasps rippled through the chamber as Boniface led Annastasia to the center floor, her gloved hand in his, chin lifted high. Redwine smirked from across the aisle, lounging like a vulture in silk. Ah, the prodigal Duke returns, he drawled. And he brings his miracle wife. Boniface ignored him, addressing the gathered lords. You've heard lies in this hall. Allow me to offer truth. Laughter broke from the crowd. Truth. Redwine sneered. From the man who hid his wife in the country for years? Boniface's voice cut through the noise. For 7 years my wife bore your whispers in silence. You called her barren. Unworthy. But the truth you mock is not sin, it's sacrifice. Anastasia's eyes glistened, but she didn't look away. He continued, the child you see her protect is not ours by blood. She is the daughter of Anastasia's sister, a woman abandoned, cast out, and left to die by men who now sit among you. Gasps spread through the chamber. Redwine's smirk faltered. Boniface turned toward him, his voice thunderous. You speak of morality, yet it was you, Redwine, who seduced her and left her to perish. Chaos erupted. You lie. Redwine barked, but his face had gone pale. Boniface stepped forward, calm and lethal. I have letters. Witnesses. Your debt to her father, your payments to silence her maid. Shall I have them read aloud? Redwine stumbled back, the color draining from his face. This is slander. It's truth, Anastasia said suddenly, her voice steady as stone. I held my sister's hand when she died. I swore her child would never suffer her shame. That is the only sin I carry. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Boniface looked around the hall, his voice soft but firm. If honor means turning your back on mercy, then I want no part in it. He turned, extending his hand to Anastasia. We're done here. As they walked out, the murmurs swelled, some in shock, some in admiration. Outside, the cold air bit at their cheeks. Anastasia stopped, turning to him. You've ruined yourself for me. He smiled faintly. No. I've freed myself because of you. She reached up, her hand brushing his jaw. What happens now? Boniface looked toward the horizon where the first snowflakes began to fall. Now, my love. We face the storm. The wind rose around them, carrying the whispers of a world that would never see them the same again. But for the first time neither of them cared. The carriage door burst open and Boniface hit the ground hard, dragged out by 2 guards as the Duke's crest was torn from his coat. The rain fell in sheets, cold and merciless, washing the mud and blood together beneath him. By order of His Majesty's Council, the officer declared, the Duke of Betterford is stripped of title and estate until inquiry into treasonous concealment of truth and obstruction of noble order is complete. Anastasia screamed, struggling against the men holding her back. He told the truth. You're punishing him for decency. But her voice was swallowed by the thunder. Boniface lifted his head, eyes finding hers even as they forced him to his knees. Anna, he rasped, don't fight them. I won't let them take you. They already have, he whispered. The officer's baton came down, striking the back of his neck. The world went black. When he awoke, the stone walls of the tower closed around him. The air smelled of rust and damp. His wrists ached where the iron cuffs dug deep into his skin. A single candle burned low beside him, its flame trembling like a frightened soul. He tried to move, but pain flared down his spine. Then he heard it, the faint sob from beyond the door. Anastasia. The latch creaked. A hooded figure slipped inside. She pulled back the cloak, her face pale but fierce. "You think I'd let them lock you away alone?" Boniface's breath caught. "How did you?" "Gold still opens more doors than truth ever will," she said, kneeling beside him. Her hands shook as she unlocked the chains. "I bribed the guard with the jewels from my wedding crown." He caught her wrist. "Anna, if they find you here, they already call me ruined. What else can they take?" The locks fell open with a soft click. Boniface stood, unsteady but alive. "You shouldn't have come." "I'm not leaving you," she said simply. "Not again." Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat the weight of the world disappeared. "Then we run," he said. The tower's corridors twisted like a labyrinth, lit only by guttering torches. They moved in silence, boots splashing through puddles, shadows stretching long behind them. At the outer gate the guard lay slumped, unconscious, the scent of wine thick in the air. Anastasia had been right. Gold and guilt had done their work. Beyond the gate, a carriage waited under the cover of night. The driver was an old friend, Captain Renshaw, once a soldier in Boniface's service, now a ghost among the dishonored. Renshaw tipped his hat. "Didn't think I'd be rescuing a duke from his own father's tower." "Neither did I," Boniface muttered, climbing in. Anastasia followed, clutching Rose tightly in her arms. "Drive," she whispered. The carriage lurched forward, wheels rattling over cobblestone. Behind them, the city of London slept uneasily beneath the storm. "Where will we go?" she asked softly. Boniface leaned back, exhaustion heavy in his bones. "North. To the coast. There's a ship in Dover. An old contact owes me passage." "To where?" He smiled faintly. "Anywhere they don't know our names." Hours later, as dawn broke over the gray horizon, they stopped at a wayside chapel. The priest inside was ancient, his robes worn thin, but when he saw Anastasia's face, his eyes softened with recognition. "Your Grace," he said quietly. "You seek sanctuary." Boniface stepped forward. "Only until nightfall." The priest nodded. "Then you'll have it." He led them inside. The chapel smelled of cedar and candle wax, its walls lined with faded saints. Anastasia laid Rose in a basket by the altar, the baby stirring faintly in her sleep. Boniface sank to his knees before the cross. "I've stood in halls filled with men who claimed to serve God," he murmured, "but this feels like the first place he might actually hear me." Anastasia knelt beside him. "What will you ask for?" He turned to her, voice low. "Forgiveness. Not for loving you, but for waiting so long to do it right." Tears gathered in her eyes. "Then we'll both ask." The priest's voice carried softly through the chapel. "Love does not erase sin, my children, but it redeems the soul that dared to love in truth." They prayed in silence. Then from outside came the sound of hooves. "Many." Boniface rose instantly. "They found us." Renshaw burst through the door, sword drawn. "Your father's men. 20, maybe more." Boniface turned to Anastasia. "Take Rose. Go through the vestry. There's a back path to the woods. I won't leave you." He cupped her face, eyes fierce. "You must. I'll draw them away." Her tears broke free. "And if you don't come back?" He pressed his forehead to hers. "Then know this. I loved you beyond duty, beyond redemption, beyond the crown." He kissed him, trembling. "Then make it back to me, Boniface Betterford. Or haunt me until you do." He smiled through the ache. "That, my love, I can promise." Outside, rain turned the courtyard into a battlefield of mud and fury. The soldiers dismounted, swords drawn, eyes searching the mist. Boniface stepped forward, unarmed but unyielding. "If it's me you want," he shouted, "leave them be." The captain sneered. "The king wants the woman and the child. Then he'll have to take them from my corpse." The first sword came down and Boniface caught the blade barehanded, twisting it free. Pain seared his palm, but he swung it with brutal precision, striking the guard's shoulder. Chaos erupted. Steel clashed. Men shouted. Boniface fought like a man who'd already lost everything but love. 2 fell, then 3. But they were too many. A blade slashed across his ribs, another grazed his thigh. He staggered but did not fall. Through the smoke and rain he glimpsed Annastasia, cloak billowing as she fled into the woods, rose clutched to her chest. Their eyes met one last time. She mouthed his name. And then the world exploded into pain as a musket fired. Boniface dropped to his knees, the sound of thunder echoing above him. Renshaw caught him before he hit the ground. "Hold on, my lord. He's safe. That's all that matters." Boniface coughed, blood staining his lips. Tell her the wreckage was worth it." Renshaw's jaw tightened. "No, you'll tell her yourself." Boniface's hand slipped from his grasp, falling limp to the mud. But in the distance, over the storm, came the faint cry of a child and the whisper of a woman calling his name into the wind. And in that sound, fragile, desperate, defiant, Boniface of Betterford found peace. The sea wind carried the scent of lilacs and salt through the open windows of Ravenswood Manor. The halls that once echoed with silence now hummed with laughter, the soft kind that comes after storms have passed. Annastasia stood by the nursery door, watching as Rose toddled across the carpet, her curls catching the morning light. "Careful, little one," she whispered, smiling when the girl reached for the toy horse on the floor. The door creaked open behind her. Boniface leaned against the frame, a faint scar cutting through his temple, the only visible reminder of that night. "You still whisper to her as if she's made of glass," he said, voice low, amused. Anastasia turned, her breath hitching the way it still did whenever she saw him. "After everything we've lost, I'm allowed to be careful." He crossed the room slowly, the familiar scent of cedar and rain following him. "You've kept this house alive, Anna. I thought it was only made of ghosts." "Maybe it was," she said softly, "until you came home." He smiled. A real one, not the guarded version society once knew. "Home," he repeated, tasting the word as if it were new to him. "Strange how it's not the manor that feels like it anymore." "It's you." She touched his hand. "Then promise you'll never leave again." "I already did," he murmured, kissing her knuckles. "And you brought me back." For a while they stood in silence, the sound of Rose's laughter wrapping around them like music. "Do you ever think of her?" Anastasia asked suddenly, glancing toward the window. "Lady Agatha?" Boniface's jaw tightened. "She's gone from London. Exiled to her brother's estate. They say she's taken a vow of silence." "Do you believe that?" He shook his head. "No. But I believe her silence will hurt her more than any punishment I could give." Anastasia nodded slowly. "Then let the past rest." That afternoon the Duke called the household together in the courtyard. Servants, villagers and workers from the surrounding estates gathered under the warm sun. A new sign hung above the gate, carved into oak and polished to a soft gleam, "The House of Mercy." Boniface stood beside it, his hand resting over the engraved crest. "Once this house was built on pride," he said, his voice carrying over the crowd. "On names and titles and the illusion of worth. But a woman taught me that compassion is the truest nobility a man can claim." His eyes found Anastasia in the crowd and everything else fell away. "She turned scandal into salvation. She gave shelter where I offered only walls. And for that, I name this place not after myself but after her, Anastasia's House of Mercy. May it always serve those who have been cast aside." A ripple of applause broke out, soft at first, then swelling into genuine joy. Anastasia's eyes filled with tears. Boniface stepped down from the dais and took her hand, raising it to his lips. "It was never about redemption," he whispered. "It was about seeing you, truly, for the first time." "And now?" she asked. He smiled. "Now I'll spend every day proving I deserve what I almost lost." That evening the manor glowed with candlelight. The great hall, once cold and grand, was warm with music and laughter. Guests toasted to the Duchess, and Rose danced in the arms of the maids, giggling wildly. Anastasia slipped away to the balcony, the cool air brushing her skin. The stars shimmered over the sea, each one a quiet witness to what they had survived. She didn't hear him approach, but she felt his presence, steady and familiar, as he wrapped a cloak over her shoulders. "You shouldn't be alone on a night like this," he said. "I'm not," she murmured, leaning into him. "Not anymore." He rested his chin on her hair. "I used to think the scandal destroyed us." "It saved us," she said, "because it forced you to see who I really was." He chuckled softly. "A woman I was far too proud to deserve. And yet," she teased, turning to face him, "I let you keep trying." His gaze softened. "Do you forgive me, Anastasia? For the silence, for those 7 wasted years?" Her fingers traced the scar at his temple. "They weren't wasted. They made you the man standing here. And me, the woman strong enough to love him again." He lowered his forehead to hers. "Then I'll never let silence fall between us again." "You'd better not," she whispered, "or I'll scandalize London all over again." He laughed, the sound low and warm, before kissing her, slowly, reverently, as if time itself had been waiting for it. Later, when the house had grown quiet and only the firelight flickered against the walls, Anastasia sat by the writing desk. A fresh gossip paper lay before her, the ink still crisp. Across the top, in bold print, the headline read, "The Duchess redeemed, from scandal to Saint of Ravenswood." She smiled, shaking her head. "Imagine that," she whispered. Boniface entered, half-dressed, his hair tousled from sleep. "What mischief are they printing about us this time?" "Nothing cruel for once," she said, handing it to him. "Apparently I'm a paragon of virtue." He scanned the lines, smirking. "A rare thing in London." "I prefer scandal," she said softly, eyes gleaming. "It suits us better." He set the paper aside and lifted her into his arms, carrying her toward the fire. "Then let them talk, Anna." She laughed quietly against his chest. "They always do." He kissed her forehead, voice dropping to a murmur. "They'll never know what we found in the wreckage." Her eyes fluttered shut, her smile tender and certain. "And they never need to." Outside, the sea sighed against the cliffs, and the wind carried the sound of bells from the chapel, the same one where mercy was born and love, once broken, was remade. Anastasia looked toward the horizon, where dawn painted the world in gold. "Do you think," she whispered, "that we've finally been forgiven?" Boniface tightened his hold around her. "Forgiven? My love, we were never condemned. We were only waiting to be found." And in the stillness of that morning, with the house alive, the child's laughter echoing through its halls, and the world finally silent in its judgment, Anastasia knew he was right. They had not merely survived the wreckage. They had built a home upon it,